Action.
Hello and welcome, Douglas Koch, cinematographer who works in commercials, features, TV, everything, award-winning. And you were just recently working with Don McKellar on
Yes.
a feature film. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. The movie's called Through Black Spruce, and it's based on a novel by Joseph Boyden, excellent author. And it's a really neat film. It's, I'd say, perhaps a little bit different for at least what I've done with Don. It's a bit more sort of serious subject matter as opposed to the generally more comedic stuff we've sort of done together. It was, it was a really great experience. We shot it in Northern Ontario. I guess you'd say in the fall. It was in September, I guess, and we were sort of summer into fall. And it was a very tight schedule, but the cast were amazing. And it went really well, I think. Went very, very well. And we're just doing some post-production work on it now. Don and Lindsay Ellicus, the editor, have been hard at work in the cutting room for weeks, months. And then now it's just reached the point where it's coming up for the color correction. We're going to be doing that in about a week from now. Mm-hmm. So Dawn and I will spend about, 4 or 5 days in the lab, as it were, doing all our sort of color work on the film and everything.
Very cool. Maybe you can tell us about, in general, what your role as a cinematographer is when you get a script and you agree to work on it. How do you see what you do as your piece to the whole? How do you?
Yes. I understand. Well, I guess when you get the script, I guess there's different ways it could happen, because you might get a script from a director you've already worked with before, and they want to work with you, and so you're going to sort of just it's maybe assumed kind of you might be doing it or whatever. And then a lot of the other times I find it's sort of like you're up for a job, but you don't necessarily have it, so you'll read it and then you'll meet with people like director, producer, writers, could be all sorts of different people, or showrunners if it's a series, and it's a bit of a parole hearing. It's got a bit of that feel you're sort of under the gun. It's like an interview, and one of the first things they'll ask you is what your thoughts are. So I guess I would say that if you're really lucky, then it's an inspiring kind of thing where you've read it and right away it puts pictures in your head somehow, and it sort of gives you a good idea of some calls to make and things to do about it. But sometimes you might read something and you're kind of stuck and you sort of go, I don't know. I mean, I find a lot of the time it's there's always that I forget what the saying, or there's a term for it almost, but it's sort of like the danger of having too much choice.
Yeah.
That there's it's sometimes overwhelming, because you look at something and think, well, it could all be very voyeuristic and handheld, like we're just stepping back and watching it. Or on the other hand, it could be very stylized or very austere, and there's a lot of ways you can do something, and sometimes you may even think that, oh, this is an obvious way to do it, an obvious visual approach, and what would be a way to do it that's not so obvious. And so you never know, and there's even, I guess, a bit of a game there when you're meeting people, say, that you've never worked with, directors, writers, producers, you've never worked with them before. You never know, because you might propose something, you might go into it with an idea, and they might think, this guy is absolutely crazy. Get over here. Or they might think, oh, that's a really neat idea, we have never thought of that. Or there's sort of everything in between. And I've had all those things happen, and then of course you also don't know. You sometimes have no idea sort of how it went. So you could come away thinking, oh, that went very well, and you never hear from them back, or they go another way, or so you don't really know. But generally, I think the whole thing is that I think all you can sort of do is just go what feels good to you in an approach, and you're trying to picture yourself watching it as a film and going, well, what would I add to this, and like how would I sort of approach it? And I think you just have to sort of go on your own thing and your own sort of instincts and gut reaction to it that way. I think otherwise I think you get sucked into the vortex of there's so many choices. We could do handheld. We could do Steadicam. It could be all locked off. It could
so
be
you either get an inspiration that's very specific and you have pictures in your head, as you said, or you just have like, oh, we could do this way, we could do that way, we could do that way, and then at that point, is that then become a more of a collaboration in terms of you talking to the director and figuring it out?
Yeah. I mean, the other thing too is, there's also different kind of levels of it too, because there's different approaches. Like to me, I guess when I was talking about, you'll notice like the stuff I was referring to there tended to be sort of along the lines of the sort of the camera style. Like, is there a lot of movement? Is it handheld? Is it, like, what's it feel like? Does it feel like you're there in a documentary, or is it very, or is it stylized? But there's also, of course, another huge part of cinematography is the lighting and the look, and then and even other processes one might be using to achieve the look. So it sort of works at all sorts of different levels. And I've definitely gone into sort of meetings before, met people before, interviews people before, where I might have had a very strong impression about, say, like the look of something. I might have really inspired me that way, but I would consider myself to have been quite open to the mechanics of the movement of it, of the camera style, or vice versa. I've sort of had both things happen. It's nice if you walk in there and you think you've really got a strong idea about everything, but it doesn't necessarily always come to you that way. And then once it's, then say if you are going to collaborate with them, then yeah, it does turn into a huge collaborative thing. And I find it is definitely, one of the most fun parts of filmmaking is getting to sort of dream about it and plan for it. And I love this quote. It's like Michael Snow, the Canadian artist, who has made many experimental films in the past, and he had this quote once where he said something along the lines of what was it now? It was like, thinking and dreaming about the films you're making and watching them when they're done. Those are the best parts. All the stuff in between that's a real hassle. And there is some truth to that. That is, as much as I love filmmaking and cinematography and all that kind of stuff, it is very hard work, and with frequently long hours, or, like whatever it is, working all night, all these kind of stuff and everything, all these things. But for the most part, there's some truth to that I think a lot of the time and I think a lot of the homework, I think, is what so much of it is about, because if you to go onto a set and just wing things, there's types of films where like that's perfect, that's exactly a great way to do it. Mm-hmm. But I think most of the time, and especially when you're short of time, having spent a lot of time planning things and talking about them and sort of going over things and questioning them and why you're doing them a certain way and everything, it's nice to have done that in the comfort of, somewhere else, as opposed to standing on set trying to do it with everybody else standing around watching you.
Right. And also, sometimes you can plan, and when you get there, something happens, and you just have to find another way.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I found too that something for me that's been really fun is just experience. The fact that when you've been doing something for a long time, I think it allows you to be a bit sort of calmer about things and sort of roll with the punches as you have to. Because sometimes, yeah, it's true, things will go south in a really weird way that you didn't see coming, and it could be something as like simple as the weather changing on you, or some doesn't work out. You lose a location at the last minute. Things like that happen sometimes, and suddenly you're right. All your planning and everything goes out the window, and you have to sort of think on your feet really fast, which you're sort of doing anyways, I guess, in the job, but even more so sometimes. And so when you are very experienced, is one big advantage of being very experienced, I guess, is that you've sort of seen more, and you've seen different ways out of different situations, and so I think sometimes it makes it a lot easier to remain calm. And people are a lot of the time looking up to you to remain calm when things go south, and so that really helps everybody with the process. Director and actors for sure.
Yeah, speaking of working with someone for a long time, Don McKellar, somebody you worked with way back, like 1998, I think.
Yeah, well, it's funny, even earlier, because I first ran into Don as an actor, and I'd met him like at parties and things like that, I guess, when he was in some of Bruce McDonald's earlier films like Roadkill, but didn't know him at all. And then he was an actor in Patricia Roseman's film When Night is Falling, and that's like around 1994 or something, I guess.
Okay.
So we met on that, and then a few years after that, he was doing his first film, Last Night, and he came to me, and it was funny because I guess he'd wrote it and he was directing it and he was actually starring in it, and I guess he knew me firsthand. He said one of the reasons he'd come to me is I was one of the guys he knew firsthand that he had worked with, as an actor and been able to see me in action and, seen the end results and stuff like that. So that's how we initially got together. And yeah, we did that. That film went really well. He did a film after that, which I wasn't involved with, Child Star. And then a few more years go by, and then he called me up, and we started doing some TV stuff and everything. And then we've been sort of on quite a tear since then. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember seeing Grand Seduction, which is an awesome film. So much fun. And did that particular film pose any crazy? I mean, there's a lot. You were in Newfoundland, right? Or no, wait. Where? Yeah, it was Newfoundland. Yeah.
Yes. Well, that film was very unusual in a few ways because it's a remake of a Quebec film, and it's the same producer. And it was the same producer and the same film editor, which I thought was really neat. And so that was really funny. And there was a big thing there. Like for me, it was like, oh, do we check out because I had not seen actually the original version when this came up, and so I was really sitting on the fence. And I don't think Don had seen it, or maybe hadn't seen it for a long time. And it was funny. And then there was a point where, of course, in our preparation for it, where at one point you just said like, we'd be crazy not to watch this. The script is virtually identical, and like we'd be crazy not to look at it and see like what worked and what didn't work. And we did that. And so for certain scenes, it was really good for us because it became a big challenge. Like there's the strange cricket field that they play on, which is like perched on this crazy cliff and everything. And we sort of made it our big thing to say, this has to be an amazing place. It has to be as good or better than the one they had in the original. It has to be a really magical place. And that was a big battle for Don and I when we were doing it, like, because it's, in production, like a lot of those people are thinking about very practical and important things like, how are we going to get people to this place? Where is it? Can you get trucks there? How do you get people in there? How do you get people out? All these things. And we kept seeing things that were just like, this is like a little field. It doesn't look like anything. And, and we were under a lot of pressure to buckle, but we really dug our heels in. And then in the end, it turns out it was a place that we had seen when I got my first look at the place. We were in a boat going down the coast, and I just had this funny one little picture of this place up on the hill, and I think even laughed about it when we saw it. Oh, we should do it in a place like that, thinking there's no way, it's completely impractical. But then when it came down to the crunch and we were getting closer, and we said, yeah, we got to find a great place. And we went back and we looked at that place, and it was crazy. Don and I literally sort of went back and kind of found it ourselves with a local locations person we had there. And then to our glee, we realized, well, there is a little dirt road that kind of goes out to it. And then you just have to, it's like a minute and 30-second walk up a little hill. And so we basically just presented it to the production and sort of said, look, we won't take any dollies or lights or anything like that. We'll do it all Steadicam and tripods and reflector cards, and like we'll keep it to a real minimum and everything like that. And they were sort of skeptical, but then they realized, oh yeah, okay, well, if you play by those rules, it'll work, fair enough. And that's what we did. So it was a funny thing like that, where you're sort of going like you end up sort of digging your heels in, and it pays off. It is important. And there were a few things like that on the film where we just sort of we said we have to be very particular, and that's a thing.
Yeah, because that.
Easy. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, that location was epic.
Yeah, it was great. It was really, it was really wild. Like it's pretty weird. And so some of these other ones, we look at it first, you might think, well, I guess this place could be good. But then when you think of all the ways in which you see it, where you're up on top of it, looking out at the sea, and then you're looking inland, and then you're out at sea looking at it. And there's all these different ways you have to see it. And all these other places we looked at, we're like, well, this is okay from this one angle, but we have all these scenes and stuff to shoot there. And so, and a really huge scene to shoot there. So and it's got to be by the water and all that kind of stuff for the story, for it to work in the story. So yeah, it was a tricky.
Once you have like that ideal thing in your head, it's hard to make any compromise.
Yes, that's right too. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It is true, because you start to form pictures in your head, and that was the weird thing I found, is that this place was in fact kind of almost exactly what I had in my head for some funny reason. I don't know. It just sort of was, and just the sort of how improbable it was, and even the fact that it was slightly slanted and tilted, like it wasn't perfectly flat, and it looks this funny patch of green on the side of these cliffs and everything. It looks like the most sort of ludicrous thing. You'd think there would be another place in town they could find to play cricket, but this one works, and also as part of the story, he's supposed to see it while he's on the doctor's supposed to see it while he's on his way there. So you want to have it be that it isn't. It's a place that isn't in the town, because you need him to see it as he's approaching the town and that kind of thing. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. And so you worked with him quite a bit, and then also Patricia Rozema that you mentioned, who
Yep.
you met Don on that film anyways. One Night is Falling.
That's right. Yeah.
Was there anything about working with her as a different process that was very specific to working with her, like in terms of her vision and collaborating?
No, that I find I guess Patricia and Don, I find them very similar in certain ways. They both have really great visual sense, as well as characters and story sense, and they both like to plan stuff. And I would say one thing about Patricia, she is really into planning stuff quite a lot. And I'm a big fan of preparing stuff as much as possible when you can, and up to and including going into the actual spaces that you're going to film in ahead of time, and sort of workshopping it between yourselves, and just trying different things and really getting to know a space and everything. So I think that they both like to do that. The most recent thing I did with Patricia was she did a few episodes on a TV series, Michael Tuesdays and Thursdays, which is a couple of years ago now. It's like 5 years ago now, where we did the first season. And it was, we were shooting in Ottawa, and it was the same. So we were working out of town, which is also keeps you pretty focused, because there's a lot of stuff around home that you don't have distracting you.
Right.
And and we did that. We spent a lot of time together. It was really fun, because we sort of went through and in doing so, it produced a lot of, really neat images, because we really spent a lot of time poking around and looking for things. And, it says in the script, they go to a park. Well, you make sure it's like a really interesting park, and it's not necessarily going to be the first thing that you're handed. Or sometimes it's funny, like, I know I've had this happen a few times, where there's something in the script where it may not be super specific, like it's a case in point was with on the series Sensitive Skin that I did with Don, and there was this place where Don's character and his wife Davina, the main character, really played by Kim Cattrall, where they have this meeting. Their relationship has gone like into a huge tailspin, and the idea is they meet for this. It's almost this final thing to see if they can sort of get things back on track and everything. And it's a very poignant, very sad scene. And we wanted a place that was, and it happens at night, and we wanted a place that was really interesting. And what was funny was in the script, I think it was specifically described as, it was like Trinity Bellwoods Park in Toronto. So it was actually a very specific space attached to it. And when I read it, I already started imagining that. And I actually had gone there at night as soon as I read it, see like, how much light is there around there at night? And like, what would we actually have to do to make that place not just be, say a big dark pit or something? But then in the end, I think very quickly, I think Don was like, no, I don't think it should be a park. It's got to be something else other than that. It would be nice if it was really urban. So what was so bizarre about this was when you're trying to convince location scouts and people like that, you're trying to convince them or trying to get them to find you something, but you can't really describe what it is. Because you can't say, you're looking for a church, or you're looking for a school, or an office building, or a house like this. It's like, no, we're looking for this really visually interesting place that two people can arrive at, and their arrival, and particularly their departure away from it, will be visually very important as we watch them walk away alone and separate. And so there's certain things about it, and so it's hard to describe. And it's kind of things, well, we'll know it when we see it. And, it's the kind of thing that will obviously drive many people absolutely crazy because they don't know exactly what you're looking for, but yet you're telling them, you'll know it when you see it, and you're hoping they will too.
Yeah.
And in this case, it was funny because it was something that he and I actually found. And it turned out it was a bridge. It was this crazy sort of weird pale yellow bridge that goes over the rail lands, runs from Front Street down into west of Spadina, between Spadina and Bathurst, runs over the huge rail tracks, and it's this pedestrian bridge. And it worked perfectly. It was really neat. The city is in the background. There's the length of the bridge for Kim to walk down and away, and it had all this stuff, and it was neat. But it's like, but we didn't know it was going to be a bridge. That was the whole thing. But it was just. But it is this place that had all the sort of right elements to it, and it turned out to be a really great location that way. So sometimes that kind of thing's very, very tricky, I find.
Yeah, it's like a treasure hunt, but you're not quite sure. Like you have what you know when you see it, and then...
Yeah. Well, it's almost like somebody says there's a treasure hunt in the woods. There's something really neat out there, but is it Easter eggs? I'm not telling you. You don't know what it is. You're looking around and you don't know what it is, but it's also a neat challenge. And and especially I find it super enjoyable the sort of like when you're incorporating sort of architecture into films and imagery. Like I find that's a really hugely fun part of it. And in this city, and I found Ottawa too, were very really great places to be poking around and looking at locations. It's a really, really, really neat thing. There's many things in the script in any script usually will be very mundane, so it's like, it's this office, it has to be very plain, it has to look plain, it can't be interesting looking, it's not supposed to be. But then there's a lot of other stuff where you need exterior places in a city for certain things to take place. And it's really neat when you start seeing all the architecture, different periods and styles and things. It's really neat.
And then that helps to set the mood, which then sets the lighting and the atmosphere. So it all ties in, right? That's right. The setting of the stage that you're creating.
Yeah. Well, it's like in the series Sensitive Skin, the first season we made it. It was very much about Toronto, and the joke was it was sort of Condo Planet. We sort of played off that everything was geared. A lot of the sort of transition shots and mood shots that set the tone of it and just give some breathing room to it was always just sort of portraying Toronto as this crazy, just like infested with condo, which is actually probably a very reasonable sort of image. And then when the second season actually came up, there was a big change that I wasn't expecting, which was the idea that Davina, Kim Mitchell's character, actually ends up moving to the island and living on the island, Toronto Island, and that gave a whole new twist of things. So that became very much like all around the water, the island, and that whole sort of environment. And so you get to paint this picture kind of the city from a very particular, coming at it from a very particular perspective, and I think audiences really enjoy that because it's a cliche, but it becomes a sort of a character in the film, and I think people really sort of enjoy that when it works.
Yeah, completely. And then you also worked a bit with Deepa Mehta as well. Yeah,
I did a couple of films with Deepa. That's a bit of a while ago now, and we had real fun. The first one was by far the most fun because it was Bollywood Hollywood, which was a very sort of stylized romantic comedy, and so got to go crazy on that. All sorts of musical numbers. It was very colorful, and we had a howl. And we were working with all these actors that were huge Bollywood actors that they were gigantic. To me, I didn't. One or two of them I'd recognized from other films of Deepa's, like Fire and Earth. But to most people, it's like, oh, okay, they're these actors. But boy, to South Asian people, they were like, these guys are like Tom Hanks and Brad Pitt and whoever, and Meryl Streep or something. They were huge stars. So we laughed because there was one time we were shooting in, I think it was in Brampton or Mississauga. And there was one actor we were working with, and somebody said, "Oh yeah, like these people come out, and it's as if they came out and Jack Nicholson's walking around on their front lawn or something." just hanging out waiting for us to light something, and it's just like, oh yeah, I guess that would be a real surprise. I have no idea he's coming, but yeah, so that was a really fun film. Working with her was really fun. I find you had to be on your toes in a very interesting way, because she kind of did the Clint Eastwood thing. You'd shoot a take of something, and it would be like a one-shot deal, and she'd go, "That was lovely. That was fantastic. Like, I think we have it." And you're going, "What? We're only going to do this once?" And you're like, "Oh, Rick, you're really nervous. Like, what? We're moving on already."
Right.
And and you may not. I seem to recall, like, at that point in time, it was shot on film. But I don't think we were actually recording the video assist, So, like, I think you see it, but I don't think we were actually recording it. So, and I was the camera operator. Was I the operator on that? I'm trying to remember. Yes, I was. I was the operator on that. So people turn to you and they say, "Okay, well, do we have it?" And you're going, "Yeah. Oh, yeah, we do. Yeah, of course we do." And you're really, because you're always watching, but it's funny. You don't expect, like, to necessarily be the first one like that. Even though I do know in the back of my mind, I was taught many years ago by a number of editors who really sort of put the thought in my mind, you'd be surprised how many times we use the first couple of takes, for performance, that a lot of actors, not always, but a lot of actors, some of their strongest stuff comes out early and fast, and it's really genuine, and they just do it. And that it sometimes will get not as good as the takes progress. So the lesson I took away from that is don't assume take one is just some kind of a rehearsal or something like that. That could very well be the one that they use. And so I try to emphasize the people I work with, dolly grips and people saying, if you don't think of, always assume that they could use any take and they could use the first one. So if you need more time to get ready and if we can do it, let's do it. But yeah.
That makes sense. Like, your first instinct is sometimes the best one, right?
That's right. Yeah. I just ran into a friend of mine the other day who is a camera operator. He works on some very big films, and he was describing one film to me, and he just said, the whole thing is like a big rehearsal. He goes, the whole thing is a one big let's shoot the rehearsal, because between the combination of the star and the director, the way they were, and the whole dynamic, is that they were just come in and just, like, shoot something, and they goes, oh, it's like very infrequently would it be what you were expecting. It would be different every time, and you had to be completely on your toes. That in the end, they said it worked, but they said, yeah, it was, like, really stressful because it wasn't like a so-called normal film the way they get made.
The process, yeah. Everyone has their own approach. And then you worked with Sandra Oh a long time ago as well. Mm-hmm. And then again, quite recently, you got an award from the Canadian Marketing Association for doing the Canada Film Day teaser video, which was so funny with Sandra Oh.
Yes.
Maybe you can tell me a little bit about that relationship.
Oh, that was great fun. Yeah, well, the project came up, and it was really fun because it was one day with Don McKellar, one day with Adam McGoyan, who I know from, like, way back, but I haven't worked with him in a million years, so that was really fun working with him again. And there were two spots that were basically Canadian Film Day, and the one with Sandra was pretty funny. I guess the concept was the woman who couldn't lie, so every word that comes out of her mouth, she just says whatever she's thinking, and to some quite hilarious results sometimes. And it was neat, yeah. So she came up from LA to do it and stuff, and jumped into the fray. And it was just one day. So, like, we had to, and there was, like, a whole bunch of location moves and stuff like that. So we had to run like hell, and it was pretty funny. Yeah, we had a good time. It was great seeing her. I bumped into her down in Los Angeles, so I've been down there visiting and stuff like that, and it was hilarious seeing her again. And she was in Michael Tuesdays and Thursdays, so it's funny. So I sort of work with her through this sort of funny spacing every 3 or 4 years or something like that. It was great fun, yeah.
Yeah, and Canada Film Day this year is April 18th, so there'll be lots of Canadian films to look out for.
Yeah, it's true.
And then, do you know anything about your latest film, when it might come out? If I got a penny for everyone that asked me that question, when's it coming out? I said, I don't know. I always guess. I'll go out on a limb here and guess and say with these type of films, I always imagine that you're probably safe to guess
that the soonest would probably be the next TIFF, that film festival.
Sure.
That's when they would premiere it. It usually makes the most sense to me, I would think. So. Yeah. That's in September.
So through Black Spruce, probably look for it at TIFF, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah, that's what I would think. I would think that it would appear at TIFF. I mean, it'll probably be completed within the next couple of months, I would think. Like, we do the color work on it, and then there's all the sound editing, which takes a while, right? It's all the sound editing and music and mix and everything like that. So yeah, what am I talking about? 2-3 months. I'm not even sure how long these days that actually takes. So yeah, it'll be, and then it'll show up. Yeah.
Awesome. So we're gonna look out for that one.
Oh yeah.
And then in the meantime, I heard you're gonna take a little bit of time to do some traveling yourself.
Yes. We're off to northeastern India, my wife and I. So that should be good. It's our second trip to India, and we're just going to areas we haven't been to before. So Calcutta and Darjeeling up in the north, and Sikkim, and into this other country, Bhutan. So it should be pretty crazy. And there's this festival going on in Bhutan that it's sort of timed around. So we'll see about that. And in the spring, it should be, I guess it's spring there too. So it should be quite something.
And do you take lots of photos when you're traveling, or just
I do actually? Yeah, no, yeah. I sort of do. Although the funniest thing is that every time I go to go on a trip, I take my big, heavy Canon digital SLR, and I put a lens on it, I put it around my neck, and I walk around the house for 5 minutes. I go, I am not carrying this boat anchor around. This is like work. So I have a much smaller mirrorless camera that takes interchangeable lenses. And if I want to, takes nice little 24 frame per second videos. Nice little, it's not like 4K or anything.
Do you want to give a little hint on what that is? Maybe people.
The camera. Well, it's actually an old. It's old now. I mean, anything more than a month old is old in digital cameras. But it's a Panasonic Lumix. It's a GH2.
Oh, yeah.
GH2,
yeah.
I don't know. I love this camera. I should have destroyed this camera, but I haven't. Like, it's endured like dust storms in Egypt, and I dropped it, and I've just been everywhere. It's been all over the world with me. I've had this camera probably for about 6-7 years. Oh yeah, 7 years now at least, I would say. Yeah. And it's literally been taken tens of thousands of pictures and been all around the world like a number of times, and it still keeps on working. And it's nice having these like higher quality cameras, I find, but if they get too heavy, it starts negating the purpose of it. This type of camera with a 10-to-1 zoom on it, it's really not that big at all. And what's funny is the last time I was in India, which I think was 2011 or something, 2010, I had an earlier version of Lumix, which was effectively almost a point and shoot. And I can't believe how great the pictures that it took were. But I have to say about India that I took more pictures there than any other place by far that I've been to. I would say second place was probably Burma or Myanmar. That place was really visually striking. But in India, just like, if you're into photography, even the slightest bit, you can't put your camera down. It's like, it's so amazing and so colorful, and like everything about it is just, it's absolutely stunning.
All right. Well, we'll have to check in with you later when the film comes out and hear how your adventures went in India. And thanks for chatting with us today.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.